What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to your home for all things combat sports.
Yo.
So we got a special guest in the house tonight. The
Let's
champ
go.
is here.
Yeah.
Let's go.
No doubt, Trout. Thanks for stopping by, man. Thanks for bringing the belt.
Yep.
I made it on the Barnhill show, mama. I made it, baby.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Hey, we
go.
got to interview the two-sport double champ. And, you know,
2 times.
when you think about it, it really puts you in rare company, the fact that you are now the BKFC champion of the world. Henry Cejudo, Alex Pereira, people like this that have won the world title in one sport and then turned around and did it in a second sport, which bare knuckle is kind of a sport of its own. So I think that puts you in a sort of class that almost is exclusive to a handful of people. So I congrats, man.
Thank you, because it's, man, those names that you just listed, it's an honor to be among them in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No doubt. And, you know, like your fight name, No Doubt, you left No Doubt when you fought Palomino, who was previously undefeated in BKFC. This guy's knocking out people. I think he was 9-0 prior to the fight with you. And it wasn't even close, man. It was like round by round. You just absolutely put a clinic on him. So I want to talk a little bit about, obviously, you have an extensive boxing record. You were champion of the world. If you look up the names that you fought, they're the who's who of your various divisions that you competed within. But what specifically drew you to bare knuckle fighting kind of post your boxing career? And then, like, how do you train differently for a bare knuckle fight as compared to a fight where you would be in there in the traditional boxing rule set?
Wonderful questions. Well, the first thing that drew me to bare knuckle was probably where I grew up. I'm from New Mexico.
Yeah.
They say that there's 2 components you need for a good fight, and that's space and opportunity. And there's nothing but space and opportunity in New Mexico. If you have an op, you're going to see him like 3 or 4 times a week because everybody goes to the same store. It's a small town. So you're going to see that person, you know, a few times. And, after the 3rd time, you're like, you know what? The desert's right there. We're like, let's just figure this out. And a lot of times, a lot of people that I've gotten in street fights with, you know, like I'm real good friends with now. So that was the old school days of street fighting, you know. And I remember like it was an NMSU Aggie that I got in a fight with, linebacker, big dude, and now we were like really close friends. He's like, "You the first dude to ever bloody my nose." I'm like, "You the first person to close my eye," you know. So, now we're blood brothers, right?
Yes. Sometimes you got to go through that, right?
You do. But with that said, to answer the question, I used to like to fight. You know, I'm not necessarily a violent person or an aggressive person. I definitely don't start much, but you know, I'll oblige if something needs to be started. So whenever I saw this bare knuckle, and specifically BKFC, because there was other bare knuckle
Organizations.
organizations that were going on, but the BKFC really intrigued me because, well, the production is top notch. I loved how they promoted every fighter on the card. Now you have the TV fights that get more promotion, but every fighter on the card gets their own graphic, gets their own posters. You know, they give them their own link to sell subscriptions. Every fighter that sells the subscriptions gets a piece of that link. They do give fighters a lot of opportunities to make money.
Yeah.
Other than the purse.
I think that might be why a lot of people are kind of gravitating towards it, not just from, you know, a lot of people think, okay, bare knuckle, maybe it's just going to be a bunch of guys that had a day in MMA and now they're trying to find something else. They don't want to grapple so much anymore. But I think it's pretty appetizing for boxers. You're kind of, you know, making the path for everybody. You're like, you know what, guys, it is a little bit crazier to get punched without gloves on, but as long as you got good defense, your head's on a swivel, you might not get touched as much, and you can make some good things happen.
And really, you got to learn how to fight.
Yeah.
You cannot go in there thinking that you're going to box yourself to a victory. You have to fight, and then you're allowed to box to victory. If you could fight, you know, then they're like, well, shit, I can't do this. Well, you know, and a lot of fighters have asked me, hey, is that bare knuckle stuff good? They pay good? And I was like, yes, they pay well. Yes, it's very dangerous, but so is everything else we do.
Right.
Sure,
know?
yeah.
Some of the research that they did suggests that the gloves is worse for concussion.
I've heard that as well. I heard also just kind of subconsciously, and we were talking a little bit about this off camera before we started, that you don't really sit down on punches as much when you're doing bare knuckle as compared to boxing. It's more you're touching, you're moving, you're trying to do damage in the form of like cuts, cut your opponent open and shut their eye and things like that. And so with boxing, it's obviously a lot longer fight. If you're talking about title fights, you're talking about 10, 12 rounds. They used to do 15 rounds back in the day. Thank God they're not doing that anymore.
Go back to the Galveston Giant. They would just go unlimited. Somebody quit.
Yeah.
104 rounds, I think, is the longest fight to record.
Is that right?
And those rounds ended when someone got dropped. It wasn't 3 minutes. Someone had to get dropped.
Somebody fell 104 times
and got up and kept going. Like after 20, I'm like, all right, maybe I don't need to do this no more.
We'll call it a day. And those guys weren't getting paid big purses back then either. That was just because you were really, truly a tough guy.
Yeah.
And, BKFC, even your title fight, which was the main event of the evening, it was the fight everybody was there to see, was only 10 minutes long. It's 10 minutes or less, depending on, if you get the guy out of there or not. So it's 5 2-minute rounds. So I think in a lot of ways it can be safer. And I know that sounds almost like counterintuitive because it's like these guys are quote unquote bare knuckle fighting, but it's a shorter time period. You don't sit down on the punches as much. And I heard you after in your post-fight speech, you gave credit obviously to your coach, Bobby Benton, who's one of the best boxing minds, in my opinion, in the entire world right now, but also to Crew Bob Perez, who a lot of, boxing guys and bare knuckle guys don't know Bob, but
not yet.
The MMA guys definitely do. And I think that may have been specifically in relation to his clinch work and the way he teaches the clinch, because that's the one thing about bare knuckle that's a little bit different than boxing is they allow you to operate in the clinch. We've seen boxers like Paulie Malignaggi and other guys that have been world champions come in to fight in BKFC and not have success at all. Certainly don't look like you. Certainly aren't going home with world titles. So what would you say about your training and the way you work with Bob and stuff that's different that made you more prepared for bare knuckle as compared to other boxing world champs that fell short?
Absolutely. I knew that there was going to be adjustments needed to be made. And when we had the Diego fight announced, Bob right away, Perez was like, listen, I know Diego, he's going to try to clinch. He's going to make it ugly. We're going to have to neutralize that, right?
Yeah,
so right away, we started working on just how to neutralize the clinch work. And for the second fight, we started working on how to control the clinch work, maybe even engage. I felt comfortable in it. So I was like, come on, let's keep rolling. Let's keep going with it.
Yeah.
That second fight, I felt was much better than the first fight because I learned from the first and applied it to the second. I knew what to work on more so, conditioning the knuckles. The intricacies of the clinch work is crazy. The underhooks, the overhooks, the controlling the head, the controlling the hips, pushing the hips forward. In some certain circumstances works, but also dropping those hips too work as well. Depending on, where they are, where your stiff arm is at. I mean, there's just so many little details that I had no idea that I was going to have to deal with or learn. But once I started learning it, it opened up more tools to the arsenal. Like that, in the last fight, I pulled Buddy into a shot and that dropped him. I didn't sit on it. It was just an arm punch, but it's just placed in the right place,
Yeah.
That was almost like dancing in a way. You turned up behind him, he just looking for you, and you just put that thing right on him.
You got that Houston salsa going on in there, yeah.
But see, that same move, almost the same move is what put Diego down.
Yeah.
It's a step around and a left over top, right? This one was a step around. I pulled him to the left, coming around. And I'm going to keep doing that move until somebody figures it out. And then if they do, I'll step around the other way.
Right.
Do you think that's kind of the secret to boxers having success in BKFC is getting into a gym that's not just a boxing gym, but also working with some MMA guys to fill those gaps?
Absolutely. I go to Main Street Muay Thai and boxing gym. They can teach you any which way to whoop somebody. Boxing, Muay Thai, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, grappling, however way you want to fight somebody, they can teach that. And so in bare knuckle, it's Luis has an MMA background. He's got good hands for an MMA fighter.
Yeah.
And good hands for a fighter, period. It's just we had to see somebody who had that style like him, and we got guys like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
But boxing wise, I don't have any guys in boxing that are going to fight like Palomino. So having those different looks, and again, the clinch work I had, the guys I was wrestling with, they're stronger than Palomino. They didn't weigh as much as Palomino, but they were even stronger than Palomino. So I like the guys I was fighting with were better than Palomino.
Very interesting.
Boxing and MMA wise.
And that's what I think a lot of people don't know about Main Street is that very rarely do you find a gym where there's world champions and people at that level in both boxing and MMA.
Yeah.
You've got Floyd Mayweather's gym and now bare-knuckle as well.
Right.
You know, you got Floyd's gym, but that's completely boxing only. And then you go, you know, out to Albuquerque and you've got the super teams out there. You got American top team down in Florida, but very rarely do they mesh.
Winklejohn, no shade to them out there, but Main Street's got them as far as talent goes. We've even taken some fighters from their gym and came over and they're like, yeah, this is where I should be.
Yeah, we've had guys come from all over, all the major camps.
Yeah.
They come in, train with us for a week or two. They're like, wait a second, I'm about to start coming to Houston.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it really helps to fill the gaps. And I think that, you know, a lot of the cross training that's done certainly helps out the MMA fighters because as far as hands are concerned, when you're an MMA guy and you get in there inside the boxing ring and you do a round with you or you do a round with Oshaki or Regis, it's like, wow, this is eye-opening, the finesse, the footwork, the smoothness. And then on the flip side of that, you guys get in there and you get into the clinch and you get up against the cage with these guys, and it's like
able to control that arm, or we're going lip on one side and pushing them off with the show. See, I've been learning.
Frame.
There you go. Yeah,
frame.
Yeah, you push them with the chest. It opens up an uppercut.
Opens up that chin. In the way, again, all these champions, right, from the MMA side to the boxing side, the bare knuckle side, and everybody's just so humble and is willing to help and work out. And I appreciate that spirit in that gym.
You're the humble one, and it's so funny to me because being at Main Street every day, we get to see people like you training, and it gives us tons of inspiration if you're an up and coming fighter. But it's so interesting to be in a place like that where we've got the greatest minds in these respective sports, coaching the greatest athletes in these sports. And when you have, you know, Crew Bob Perez working on something, we happen to be throwing hands in MMA class, and he can literally pull over, you know, Bobby Benton or pull you over and say, hey guys, what should we do here? Should we tweak this or that? And then if you need a different body, you know, you went from boxing where you've got the best sparring partners you can find right there in your gym. But when you move over to something like BKFC that has a slightly different rule set and different game plans all throughout, you have to adjust. And to be able to not have to go out and like search the globe for people that do those types of things and have those talents, but to have them in your gym every day, it's really amazing.
And no shade to y'all, but you know, it's saving us a lot of money.
Right? Well, it's like an opportunity. We enjoy it, right?
No, we gotta get y'all paid too, but we would have to, you know, buy that type of service. And bring them out, house them, feed them. So you know, it saves a lot of money, and a lot of times they come and you know we get rid of them in a day because they can't keep up. Or you know, the skill level at our gym is just keeps rising. So even if I was having a shitty day, but I really can't afford that because I'm about to go roll with Nick, and so I'm gonna have to step my game up, and me doing that is gonna make him raise his game and just keep going. You know what I mean?
Yep, so, that's what the high tide lifts all ships, as they say.
Right,
you got to be on your toes at all times. You could be gearing up for MMA class and somebody say, hey, we need you to box a couple rounds sparring. You're like, wait a second, that's a world champion over there. You want me to just spar him? And you just have to, you know, jump in the fire.
It takes like, you're like, my head was not ready for that.
Oh, I was in there one day, and, you know, Nick and I were about to go together, and Bobby calls Nick over. He's like, hey man, hop in this ring. Regis needs a southpaw. And I was like,
for the Zepeda fight.
Oh, well, I was like, okay. So they give me some other guy and some newer guy. So I was like trying to just like give him a light round, but really, I was like, I don't want to be trainer. I want to watch Nick spar Regis. Like, how often do you get to see your brother spar a world champion in boxing? And that's the cool thing.
And that was good work because he whoops Zepeda.
I guess I gave him the right looks, right?
And I remember I was telling Regis because he wasn't sparring with me for that camp, and I'm bigger than Regis. So it makes sense. But I was like, I'm left-handed. That's my style, Regis. Come on, you should have brought me in camp, baby. But he picked the right ones because he was right. He was real ready for that fight.
Yeah, well, he beat me up instead of you for that one.
I'll take. I'll allow you to take that ass whooping.
And speaking of upcoming fights, you're the champ now. You kind of hold all the cards.
Yeah.
Has BKFC given you any direction about which way they want you to go? You know, Mike Perry's always around.
Yeah.
Conor McGregor shows his face at BKFC events. We just saw, it appeared that Dana White tried to buy the organization for a couple $100 million bucks.
Like
it seems like there's some opportunities for you.
Absolutely. They haven't given me any clear direction. So I'm just kind of calling him out. Eddie Alvarez, he's closer to my weight.
Yeah.
So, that's a good name. He gave Mike Perry all he could handle until it was the last part of that fight. That was a great fight. And yes, I would love to fight Mike Perry. He's, I believe, 175, which would mean I would have to get a little heavier. But I mean, I enjoyed building some muscle for that last fight. And I'm sure, as long as I don't lose my speed, I'm not really too worried about the weight. Because again, if it was a 12-round fight, maybe so. He could start leaning on me those later rounds and make a difference. In this 10-minute fight, I can finesse and piece him up and move and piece him up and move and you know what I mean? And he could try and impose his will, but I'll beat him up inside, I'll beat him up outside, and it's not going to be easy, but I think I can do it.
Well, it's very difficult, I think, for somebody who's not at your level as far as boxing is concerned to get enough read on you to start to figure your game out in a 10-minute setting, especially when the rounds are 2 minutes. And now you've added that clinch game to it. So they're only saving grace is, well, I got to grab this guy and bring him in and throw some uppercuts up the middle. But then you underhook him and shuck him off. It's like, uh-oh.
And shout out to Bob again for that one, because that move it's detrimental to my bare knuckle game, and it's going to be moving forward. So I'm just going to get better at that. I was told, when they're like, won't you go to MMA? All you need to do is just have a good takedown defense. And I'm like, nah, I'm good. I'll stick to, because again, and don't get me wrong, I think boxing and bare knuckle is still safer than doing MMA.
Yeah.
There's no shin bones going to your
shin
head.
bones, foot, elbows.
You can get cut open.
You're not getting kneed in the face in bare knuckle.
Knees,
that's for
yes,
sure.
exactly. And I think my anxiety be through the roof. Like you got all those, hold on, and then you got the takedowns too. So I'll stick with the boxing and bare knuckle.
Well, I think it's different too, because in boxing, you're able to get a guy who can formulate a style that's so good and so bulletproof that he can actually, attain a 30-0 record or something, which is very impressive. And your opponent, who was the pound-for-pound #1 bare knuckle fighter in the world, at 9 victories in bare knuckle, is insane. But a lot of people, they try it one time, they're like, you know what? I thought I was tough, but that ain't for me. This dude, Palomino, is as legit as it gets.
You ain't lying.
And he didn't lose 9 up, 9 down, and he's getting his hand raised. He's the world champion. He was pound for pound for #1, which in my opinion, if the rankings go through, if you take the pound for pound spot, I guess you become the pound for pound #1.
Yeah,
so I'll say it here. We got the pound for pound #1 bare knuckle fighter in the world.
In my mind, they calling the juggernaut the pound for pound now. And he even thanked me afterwards. He's like, hey, I appreciate you because, now I'm pound for pound since you get that loss. I was like, well, until I get there, because I'm coming for that spot player.
Yeah, I think you're perfectly tailor-made for bare knuckle, man. You have the finesse. You're developing all the other aspects of the game. Obviously, to see you fight MMA would be a ton of fun, but I think you got a great future where you're at in BKFC. And I think the bigger names are going to keep coming. I think you're going to, and from both sports, meaning MMA and boxing, I think you're going to see a lot of guys who are in the traditional boxing route right now that are, maybe towards the end of their competing career, or they're no longer the champion, transition to bare knuckle. And I think you're going to also see a lot of MMA guys like Mike Perry come over, especially with the opportunity to make money. They're letting you guys get, subscription back in.
They let us get money. I mean, Mike Perry just made, more money than he's ever made in his whole MMA career off of one fight.
And now he's getting these big celebrity matches where he's just weighing in, getting paid a bunch of money just to be the guy, the alternate.
Yeah.
I think it's very interesting that there's no doubt that you're trailblazing for the boxers out there. Because I think a lot of them felt like, okay, we saw Palomino go in there. It was like right when BKFC really started to go. But, he didn't have the results he wanted. And so I think some people were like, I don't know, maybe it is for the MMA crowd. You're showing that this is something that high-level boxers can do, they can excel at, and go for it.
I don't think that every high-level boxer can do it necessarily.
Yeah.
You have to fight.
Yeah,
like, for instance,
be a dog.
I think Crawford would be amazing for this.
Oh, yeah.
Wrestling background.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think Terrence is tailor-made for it, yeah.
I think, to be honest, I mean, I don't know if it's true or not, but I feel like Terrence has gotten in a street fight within the last month.
Yeah,
he's just a hothead.
He's just that guy.
He's a hothead. I mean, he don't take no, and he's very dedicated. He's not a drinker. He don't smoke nothing. He's a hothead. I'm like, you might need to smoke something.
Yeah, he likes to fight.
He likes to fight. I would think he would be great for that. In our gym, Nagi Aguilera.
Yeah,
I think he could be a top boxer in the bare knuckle ring.
Yeah,
maybe not so in the boxing ring, but in the bare knuckles, he could definitely whoop.
Yeah,
A top fighder. We would love to get Ngannou in the bare knuckle.
Can you imagine?
Who would fight him?
Well, it's so
maybe Derek Lewis. They could do the rematch.
Oh,
Bob could train him in the clinch. The much anticipated, because their first fight in MMA fell flat because everybody was like, it's gonna. These are the two heaviest punchers. It was touted as this like fight that was going to be incredible. Somebody was going to get brutally KO'd, but neither one of them pulled the trigger on the other, so it was a boring fight. But
respectfully,
not for lack of trying on Derek's part, though. I will say that fight laid an egg, but it was mostly on Francis. But I will say, we were just talking about this yesterday. Bare knuckle right now, and you are dead smack in the middle of the right divisions. As far as I'm concerned, about 55 to about 85 is the sweet spot for bare knuckle, because sometimes I think about Ngannou or some of these guys, Deontay Wilder, getting in bare knuckle fights, and one crack off of them could bust somebody up. It's Dr. Stoppages. I think you could end up seeing, instead of, striking clinics like you put on, or, one punch KOs, you could see somebody get busted up so bad and then the fight's over because of a doctor stoppage.
Well, you could also see Francis break his hand because, even though he hits as powerful as he does, when you think about the bones in the hand, they're somewhat fragile. You know what I mean? Even for the biggest, strongest guys like Francis. And if he throws as hard as he can, he could shatter his own hand.
Yeah,
so.
True. Yeah. And that's one thing I did have to learn, is not sitting on every punch.
Yeah.
The first fight, I sat on every punch, and my hand was swollen, hurting for months.
So you had to learn the hard way to throw less on your shots and be pinpoint accurate.
And the cool thing about bare knuckle is that when you hit them in the right place, they're going down, right? It's not like with the glove, is you hit them in the right place and they're out on their feet, and you gotta go and hit them again, then they beat them to the floor. No, you hit them in the right place without the gloves, they're going down.
Yeah.
So there's no point of loading up on any shot, because if you don't hit them in the right place, you're gonna hurt your hand. You know what I mean? So
that's right.
Arm shots is where it's at, which leads for faster combinations. And you hear that. Now you got somebody bleeding, and then it's very fun. I'm not gonna.
Well, I was about to say, you don't even look like you were in a bare knuckle fight a few weeks ago. Usually those guys are stitched up and scratched up.
It's coming, but my mama said if my face gets messed up, I can't play no more. So
I hear that.
So
Yeah. Even at Champ of the World, she's still the boss.
All right, Mama, you got it.
So you mentioned Francis, and I would be remiss to have such a good boxing mind on our show and not ask you about the biggest boxing match that everybody's talking about coming up, which is Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou. Now, nobody expected Francis to do as good against Tyson Fury as he did. Now, I'm biased, I'll admit it. I am an MMA guy, so I said, I think Francis won the fight. He got the knockdown. He landed the bigger shots. But I can understand how, the judges scored it for Tyson Fury, but I don't think that Anthony Joshua should overlook Francis, and I think that fight is way more competitive than a lot of people believe.
Look, so let's just put it like this. I think Tyson Fury, even if he was out of shape, even if everything was going against Tyson Fury is the best heavyweight that we have seen, and we might be able to say of all times.
One of them, yeah.
Definitely one of them.
He's at the table. Yeah.
He's at the table. Because if you put Ali and Tyson Fury together, and the boxing black man and me would never, I'd say no comment.
Yeah.
You don't have a
But
dog
the
in that
size,
fight,
I mean,
huh?
6'9", almost 300 pounds.
And he's
Ali was
fast.
not big like
He
that.
wasn't
But he
big.
moves. He
He's
moves like Ali.
6'9", he's
right?
300 pounds. He's fast. He's fluid. He makes you miss. He's got this crazy fast jab. Like Tyson Fury, again, is probably one of the best heavyweights we have ever seen.
Yeah.
And on the off day for Francis in his first professional boxing match, you know, I know he put in work. He was with Coach Dewey and Coach
Nixick out there in Vegas. Yeah.
And I even still, Fury's been doing this his whole life.
Yeah.
You know, and for Ngannou to do what he did with the greatest heavyweight we've ever seen, I think Ngannou is going to spark Joshua.
Is that right?
I mean,
Joshua gets hit.
Anthony Joshua gets hit and he can't take a hit.
Yeah.
This is what I said, and the boxing community just absolutely came after me for it, but I stand by it. If Andy Ruiz can finish Anthony Joshua, boy, oh boy, can Francis Ngannou finish Anthony Joshua. I mean, there is
I believe so too.
way more punching power there for Francis.
And Andy Ruiz is strong. Don't get it wrong. But he's not as strong as Ngannou.
Yeah.
No,
You know?
yeah.
Well, I think above everything, the power's there for Ngannou, right?
Right.
But the mindset, when I saw them walk into that arena for the fight against Tyson Fury, I'm like, this looks like the Bad News Bears going in there to just get beat up.
Spoil the show.
Yeah, they're going to get
Yeah.
beat up in there.
Yeah.
And you got the Furies who are lineage. I mean, they've gone through not only boxing, but bare-knuckle. They've been bare-knuckle families since like the beginning of time.
They're gypsies. I mean, his dad was a bare-knuckle guy.
Them gypsies, they throw them things.
Yeah.
Their whole life.
So I think Ngannou, came out and he showed composure. And that's why this next one's going to be intriguing because people say, oh, well, Tyson probably didn't train right for that. Or I think he did take it seriously, and he certainly took it seriously after he got dropped. He was like, you know what? I'm going to make sure this guy doesn't touch me again. I don't know if Joshua has the same skills to avoid that shot.
I don't think it mattered if he was training or not.
Yeah.
The skills that Tyson Fury possesses, he can easily beat anybody and everybody out of shape. But not Ngannou.
That's right.
Easily beating him.
That's why I never liked that excuse, right? Because, he's this boxing world champion, undefeated, all that. If you were to get in there with somebody in a boxing match and it was somebody who's never boxed before, it's literally their first professional fight, and you've been hanging out with John Jones for 3 months, partying in Albuquerque, you're still going to get in there and box their ears off.
That's lightweight what happened when I fought Diego. I was chilling.
Right? Yeah, you were just enjoying life, right?
I was chilling, you know what I mean? And went in there and beat the shit out of Diego, just like I knew it would be, because even in his MMA career, he never had hands.
Yeah, he was just a tough guy.
He was a tough guy. He could take an ass whooping. He was a great wrestler.
Yeah.
And
Take the wrestling away from him.
Can't do that right here.
It looked like to me, Diego Sanchez is like some of the other dudes that came over to BKFC, where they've got a couple of Hail Marys, and those are their plays.
That's it.
And then like when you get somebody who's figured out, okay, watch out for this Hail Mary and that Hail Mary, and everything else is pretty much open season. That's what showed me in your very first fight. That's why, I mean, you got the attention from the champ after your first fight.
Yeah.
And that's why you wound up with the belt just after a couple of fights in the league.
2 fights in,
It's
man.
insane, but at the same time, people recognize real, right? And when you showed that, all right, I got the sauce to beat these guys, I think they're like, all right, what's the point of making him climb up? Let's go right to the champ. Champ wants it. Let's give the champ what he wants.
No doubt. And we were supposed to do this last year.
Yeah.
It didn't happen. I kept telling him, I was like, look, so after I beat Palomino, and that's your pound for pound, then what? You know what I mean? What are we going to do after that? He's like, we'll make you pound for pound. I said, all right, cool. Then I beat him, and then they made Juggernaut pound for pound. I was like, you know what? It's cool. It's cool. Because if you give me pound for pound now, then what? Right? Right?
There's nothing for you to climb to, right?
So I'm glad y'all did that. Because I'm coming for the Juggernaut's title. I might fuck around and fight the Juggernaut too.
Right?
You know?
Let's
There
go.
you go. Yeah, take them all out.
Well, people talk about climbing the mountain, right? But it
Yeah.
feels like in a lot of ways you were picked up by a helicopter,
Dropped
taken to
off
the
the
top,
top.
and you're like,
Yeah.
all right, come take it from me.
And I like snowboarding, so I just I'm just coasting down that motherfucker now.
And I like what you said too. You get used to me, get used to seeing my face, because I'm gonna be here for a long time.
Ain't nobody beating me. This is the way I feel. And I mean, after that fight, of course, my confidence was real high. Because like I said, I've been telling everybody that, listen, I'm a former and future champ. And nobody believed it. but they didn't believe I was going to be the champion the first time.
Right.
You feel me?
In boxing, you mean?
In boxing, yeah. Because being a black kid from New Mexico, the demographic is horrible.
Yeah. Right.
And I wasn't supposed to do none of the stuff I did anyway. But I'm a travieso, or what we call a brat. I don't do what I'm supposed to do anyway.
You defy the odds.
Yeah, you got to see greatness, man.
Yeah.
And that's certainly what you did.
Go for it.
And I think that people really need to understand how impressive it is to be a world. Just think about how difficult it is to be a world champion in anything, right?
Yeah.
You became world champion, you defended your belt for a couple of years in one sport, and then you went, much later in your career to an entirely different sport. And yes, there are similarities, but let's be honest, it's a different sport.
Yeah.
And you ascertained the highest height, and you defeated the guy who's undefeated, looking for his 10th straight win in the sport, who was pound for pound. I mean, that is something that, as I said in the beginning of our chat, Henry Cejudo, Alex Pereira,
you're breathing rare air.
Kayla Harris. I'm grasping at straws trying to find
Izzy Adesanya,
Israel, kickboxing.
Wonder Boy, I guess, maybe. But even still, nothing really sits as high as boxing. And then, in my opinion, bare knuckle, because humans on a primal level, we get it.
Yeah.
We understand that it's like one of the toughest things you can do. And like you said, it's really hard to be the best in the world at anything in life.
Yeah.
Combat sports takes that up a level. And then you're just talking about now maybe the most gruesome
Straight up, because it's hard, really hard to be the best in combat sports specifically.
Right.
Yeah.
Because sheesh.
It's outliers. It's only outliers.
Yeah,
man.
there's so many things you're fighting, and your opponent's one of the last ones.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's just what the fans get to see. They don't get to see the fight leading up to the fight.
So much shit to fight, but that's really all I know, and I'm just grateful to be here still doing something I love, because I really like this bare knuckles. It's fun.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
You're here to stay,
and
man.
if you guys remember going back to the time, if you got any street fight, you remember hearing that
pop, that crunch,
little tut, tut, tut. You're like, oh, I remember this. Oh man, it feels good. There's no feeling like it.
Yeah, whatever microphones they're using, cage side or ringside at bare knuckle, they are legit
great.
because you hear them and you're like, oh god, that one sounded like he cracked his knuckles on his head.
That's awesome.
And I don't know if they have great microphones or it's just hearing it, because some of those guys are getting. I mean, on my card, you see that guy that broke both his hands.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and there's a guy I'm drawing a blank on his name, and I hate that, but he was in the co-main event of your last fight.
Yes.
And he used really crisp boxing. He was a long body.
Bryce Henry.
He used great crisp boxing and got his hand raised and did it in beautiful fashion. Not quite as nice as you, but he had his own highlights going there too. One highlight that you had, your whole fight was full of highlights, but everybody seems to be forgetting about, you sat in the pocket there for 1 second, changed levels just like a wrestler would, and then threw an uppercut right up the middle. And there were so many other ones that sat him down and whatnot, that those got highlighted, but I was like, everybody missed it.
They missed
that right there was the one.
They missed it. Again, learning that shit from y'all, man. And I can't wait to learn more. That's the good thing about it. It's like, I don't feel like I'm there yet. I feel like I'm scratching the surface. There's a lot more to uncover, because I mean, we've only had 2 camps, and in those 2 camps, I don't feel like I had enough time. I was like, man, I want to do more. I want to do more. Bobby's like, man, chill out. You trying to do too much, man. Like, I know, I like it.
Well, just as much as it's fun to be really good at something or the best in the world, it's also really fun to learn new things. And start from the bottom, and then you get those, what they call beginner gains, right? You're like, I'm getting to see a lot of evolution really quickly.
Right quick.
You're a fast learner too. So.
And I'm like, man, give me some good time. Let me get my 1,000 hours in, or 10,000 hours in. Imagine what that's like. So, that's got to do it a minute at a time.
Yeah.
Just plug at it.
There you go, man. I think that's a perfect place to end it. I love the Eddie Alvarez fight. I want to see that one happen.
Hey, I got one.
If you're listening, make that one happen.
Yeah, y'all need to make that happen for sure. I think you guys got a ton of great names, and the matchmaking over at BKFC is next to none. They're really putting the right fights together at the right time.
Yeah.
Last question, because we always have to bring it around. Everybody's got to eat food, right?
Yeah.
So everybody in Houston says that the best Mexican food outside of Mexico is here in Houston. But being that
look at that face.
Being that you're from New Mexico,
who says that?
Man, I don't know. It's the word on the street.
I think Nick says that.
I don't know. I found a couple good taco
and Mana
shops.
Martinez too.
Yeah. So we asked Mana. He was spending some time up in KC, how the barbecue was there compared to here. He said barbecue here's way better.
Okay.
Where are we finding the best tacos, the best Mexican food?
New Mexico.
Yeah, it's in the name, right?
New Mexico got the best Mexican food outside of Mexico.
Let's go.
Fun fact. The burrito and the nacho was invented in New Mexico.
Really?
Is that right?
So you guys are welcome.
So anytime you eat one of those, you just put some respect on it.
When you get the burrito to go, that's us. It's New Mexico right there.
Right.
California has decent Mexican food. I do consider myself a Mexican food snob. And I will turn my nose up at some trash chili and trash Mexican food. And that's what I've been doing in Texas. This Tex-Mex I cannot get down with.
Yeah.
Somebody's like, you got to go to Chuy's. That's really good. And I go in there and I'm like...
The queso's as yellow as the sun.
Yeah, we got paste picante sauce for salsa. That's how I know. Right away, when you give me some trash salsa... the rest is gonna follow suit. So.
That's right. Yeah.
So New Mexico got really good Mexican food. I have heard, I can't confirm, but I have heard that Chicago's Mexican food is out overdoing even New Mexico's.
Is that right?
That's what I heard. And I was like, get out of here. But there is a big Mexican community in Chicago.
Wow.
It's actually really a big fight town. They don't have many fights, but I don't know why, but it's a big fight city. And they have a big Mexican population. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. But New Mexico is Mexican population. So,
yeah.
You know
well,
maybe
you defend the belt in Chicago and then we go out and get some Mexican food afterwards.
Go out there.
Yeah, there's more and more states allowing the BKFC to come and put their events on. I think
Texas is next. It's coming up. And once, even right before that happens, I'm getting the BKFC tryout at Main Street.
Let's go.
You know, I've already been putting the groundwork. We had one in El Paso, and I was like, yeah, that was cool, but y'all need to come to Houston.
Yeah.
Because we got so many killers that would be very good at this.
Yeah, and there's a couple dudes on the MMA side that are chomping at the bit for an opportunity at BKFC.
Dog, and not just boxing. There's some MMA dudes that have hands that would be very good in this BKFC-ish.
Yeah.
I mean, even Jacob.
Yeah.
I think even Jacob be real good at it.
Yeah. Jacob's boxing is sharp, man.
It's sharp.
And he knows, hey, if he knows anything about clinch, man, he's high level in there.
Exactly. I think
he was giving you lots of rounds.
Good, lots of rounds. And you know, he'd probably go down to what, 145?
Yeah, that's where he fights. Yeah. He'd be trouble there.
Golly.
Yeah,
that is not fair.
Nah.
So there's a lot of guys in our gym on both sides, the boxing and on the MMA side.
Yeah.
That would kill it in bare knuckle. And I just can't wait to get them in there.
Yeah,
well, not me, but you know, bring it to the forefront so they could just go in and kill it. Hopefully they stay out my weight class.
Well,
Houston, I don't have to deal with them. You know what I mean?
Well, it's safe to say Houston is a fight town.
Big time.
And the mecca of fighting within Houston is Main Street. Everything goes through Main Street as far as combat sports go in Houston.
That's true.
Not only is there world champion boxers, highest level MMA fighters you can possibly find in the world. Now, the BKFC, the most prestigious bare knuckle belt in the world, goes through Main Street.
That's right. That's right.
Even Ike, you know what?
He
just won.
Yeah, he just won the heavyweight belt. Yeah.
Yes.
Hurricane Ike. He was built for bare knuckle too.
Yeah,
man. BKFC needs to give him something. I think that would be a fun one to see him over there.
Fun fact, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and just expose it now.
Let's go.
He's coming to the BKFC.
Let's go.
Let's go.
We're breaking news over here.
Breaking news on the Barnhill Brothers.
Yep.
I've heard that they've offered him a 3-fight deal for the BKFC.
Let's go.
You know, and I think he'll murder it over there.
He's got some big old hands, man. He was built for
and he don't feel nothing.
No, he deserves it. Hey, he was showing me a setup the other day because even though he's a bare knuckle champion, he still knows a lot about MMA, and he was showing me some stuff. I accidentally kicked him in the head the other day. I had shoes on and everything, and I'm like, oh my bad. He didn't even. I mean, it was.
He's just like,
right?
It's okay.
He scratches his head harder than that, right?
Yeah,
he's just one of those guys.
Yeah, man.
Well, man, Austin, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. Thank you for bringing the belt. We've never had a world championship belt on set, so this is a special day for us.
Thank you guys,
we're probably going to live stream Ngannou versus Fury and just watch it here. So if you want to join us for that, you're more than welcome.
I'd love to. Yeah, so I could talk on my boxing side, right?
Let's go show him some love, right?
Like, but again, I think Ngannou's going to get that.
Yeah.
I hope Joshua proves me wrong, but Joshua, he don't have the nuts for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what it comes down to. He got the heart for it? Because Ngannou's going to take what Joshua can give.
Yeah.
He's going to make him eat some shots.
Yes, Joshua can't take what Ngannou's going to give.
And I think this is just the tip of the iceberg for crossover fights, but I think a lot of them are going to wind up in the bare knuckle ring
it's a good equalizer.
Yeah,
bare
it really does.
a good equalizer.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I haven't taken any damage. And I don't plan on it. But that's because I learned how to fight on the inside from the MMA guys, right? If you think you're just going to box your way to victory, it ain't going to happen. You got to fight these guys because that's what they come to do. They come to fight. And if you got to fight with them, then you could box.
Yeah.
Right?
The first few rounds might be all about skill. Once you get into that third, fourth, and fifth round, it's got heart and cojones, and you got to show that dog.
Yeah, it's going to be a fight. So
that's right.
Learn. If you do your adjustments, you'll be all right.
That's right.
Unless you're fighting me, then you're not going to be.
Yeah, you got no chance.
Then it's going to be a long 10 minutes or less.
Exactly.
Well, guys, thank you so much for watching this episode. Follow Austin on social media, Austin No Doubt Trout, and make sure you tune in for his next BKFC fight when he defends this belt, because it's going to be a good one.
That's right.
Peace.
Great job, man. You're natural on the mic. Yeah.
Thank you, man. That was fun.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.